Well, it's another beautiful, beautiful morning. It takes me a little bit to work up to these Ride to Remember. There's a number of days, I guess, that you have to go back in your mind. You have to think about what you want to say, and what that does, it opens up doors to deeper memories. Mostly good times, and culminated, I guess, by tragedy. But I'm going on a trip with a friend of mine to Tuktoyaktuk very soon. So I wanted to get this out before the trip. And there's a reason for that. And it'll be part of the story. So you just have to bear with me a little bit. Keep my thoughts kind of focused and clear. Who I'm going to talk about today is Ernie Hall. Ernie was a great guy. He was a tremendous, tremendous soldier. In the world of non-commissioned, he made it to the top, distinguished himself in many, many ways. Very calm guy. He ended up with the nickname Buddha. Messaged me one time through one of my struggles, and the name was very befitting. But let's go back. Let's go back on a little journey. First met Ernie in 1975, 3 RCR, as young soldiers. We did our first overseas tour to Cyprus together in 1976 and 77. And when we came back, we went to the Airborne Regiment. That's pretty well the story for a lot of my friends that are still around or gone. And the Airborne Regiment became defining moments for a lot of us. Ernie and I were on a lot of courses together. They had like a unit PT assistance course, instructor's course, I guess you'd call it. We were on that together. Yeah, unarmed combat instructor's course, on that together. Recce patrolman course, the patrol pathfinder course. He finished the course. I didn't finish it. Partway through, I was returned to unit because of my injuries from a motor vehicle accident. But I ended up staying with reconnaissance platoon, and that's where my career married up kind of with Ernie's career. We did a lot of things together. We went back to Cyprus with the Airborne Regiment in 1981 with Recce platoon, both of us as detachment second in command, 2 ICs. That kind of gives a little structure to my time with Ernie, in the armed forces. There are so many things that I remember, through our training, through our career, fond memories of Ernie. I can remember once we were doing a rehearsal on the unarmed combat team, doing a rehearsal for a demonstration. I believe we were going up north. And Ernie had worked with his partner, I think it was Kirk Lawson, and he had to do the defense against a pistol, 9mm pistol. And it was a choreographed defense, but when Kirk went to cock it jammed. And Ernie's job was to go in the on-guard position and defend himself against it. And Kirk was struggling with to get the pistol on Jammed, and Ernie was standing there, and he started to give the, ha, ha, and it was kind of in slow motion. I'll never forget that. It was one of those funny things. Some things, that are planned that kind of fall apart. And he had his way to regroup it. He had, back at that time, one of the guys called him Staff Ernie. And that kind of stuck for a little while, I think. This is where I'm going here. After I left the armed forces, we kind of kept in touch. But Ernie's career then, became very distinguished with tours all over the place. First Gulf War, Africa, Afghanistan, the Balkans, Bosnia, those places. He pretty well seen it all, I guess. One of the last times that I actually had seen Ernie was in 2005 at a reunion. I was up in Petawawa. I think there was about 600 guys there. We had a real good time, and Ernie and I had a little bit of a talk on the side. And he said to me, at that time he was chief warrant officer, so he had risen to the top. And he said to me, his words were, "Johnny, you should have stayed in. We'd all be working for you and we'd be happy." And that meant, coming from him, that meant a tremendous amount to me, that he would give me that respect. And my career had left, 20 plus years before that. And he still thought that way of me. So, it's the caliber of man he was. We had a few messages through the years after that. Kept track of where he was going. A good friend of his had messaged me one time and said that he was going to surprise me and come down to Nova Scotia. Ernie got into the motorcycling too, and he wanted to surprise me, come down and do the Cabot Trail together. So I never got the chance to do that. I can remember one morning back in the winter of 2015, getting up and turning the computer on, and in my news feed right away there's a picture of Ernie Hall. His chest with his wings and ribbons, and it said that Ernie died last night. It absolutely floored me. I think he was 57 or 58 years old then. Just retired after a 39-year stellar career. I don't know if he was not even a year out of retirement. Just gave so much to the world. But it just stunned me. The only thing I can say is it stunned me that he was dead. He was gone. Probably after 8 war zones, just led men through all of that, survived it. And he was coming out of a hockey game, Pembroke. And a guy hit him with a car, with an SUV, and a couple of other pedestrians. And he died later that night in the hospital. Massive injuries. Gone. I was riding across the country, not across the country, but from Halifax, 2016. And going up to what we call the Airborne Camp Weekend. And a friend of mine, Gabby Koch, she's in the Ontario, in the civilian world, but very active in the support of the veteran community. She was instrumental in keeping Ernie's memory alive, and still to this day does. I got to know Ernie's daughter through Gabby, and so there was a series of messages in that period. And his daughter, it was pretty hard. So we tried to be as much support as we could to be strong. So when I was riding to Petawawa, I'd made arrangements to meet her and her friend. They were coming to Gagetown, and she wanted to retrace her father's steps, talk to people that knew him, and get to know her father, because there was a disconnect there. When a man puts that kind of time into his career, sometimes there is a disconnect of family. When you're in the middle of what soldiers like that do, we don't know sometimes how that affects other people, because your life is giving so much to somebody else, and it's taking away sometimes people so close to you. But anyway, in Fredericton, I was riding across my bike and on my way to Ontario, and I stopped in and I met them, little fast food place. And when I walked in, I had never met them before, both of them, and I looked across and I knew instantly it was Ernie's daughter. Same blue eyes, same piercing eyes, kind of similar looks to the face, and she recognized me, because I guess seeing pictures on Facebook or whatever. And that smile, and it took me back. So I went over and sat down, and the three of us sat there and started to talk. And I just started to open up to what her father meant to me. And I broke down. And here's these two young girls sitting in front of me, and the other one, her friend, has the presence to say, "I'm going to leave you two alone." And that was huge to me. That these two young girls could sit there and stay calm while I sat there kind of in a teary-eyed mess across from them. So I gathered myself up and I told her, of my experiences with her father, and we had great laughs. We went outside afterwards, and I felt much better. But I could share that with her, maybe help her understand who her dad was. Took a picture on the bike, and she went on her way, to Gagetown to meet many more people on her journey to learn who he was. And I headed for Petawawa on my journey to celebrate the years that he had given. Probably one of his best friends was Kenny Miles and Scotty Patterson. The three of them were very close. Scotty, the same as Gabby Koch, was instrumental to this day, still is, in keeping the memory alive. But Kenny was involved in a Herculean way, a task. He was with Ernie in his last moments in the hospital. Probably one of his best friends of 40 years. He was there when his best friend, I should say, took his last breath. I can't even list the tasks that Kenny was involved in. with the family. You know, the kids and brothers and sisters. You know, he has a metal mounting business and shadow boxes and all kinds of tribute items to friends, and the efforts that he put in to celebrate his friend, to honor him. The only word is Herculean, and Kenny and I have had talks about that. And he took me aside one time when I was up for one of the camp weekends, and he said, I asked the family if this would be all right, and they agreed. Kenny gave me Ernie's multi-tool, you know, kind of one of those knives and pliers and screwdrivers and different things, and it'll be going with me on the bike ride to Tuktoyakta. So I certainly salute Kenny Miles, Scotty Patterson, Gabby Koch for what they have done to keep such a great man's memory alive. He was the next name that I had made put on my vest. And actually, I'm on my way over this morning. I took them off the other vest that I had, and I want everything with me on this trip. And I've got to move a few things around because I want them on the left-hand side. And Remembrance Day, the poppy will be over them in the wing. So, and I want to do this and wanted to get this out before I left, because the example of how Ernie passed is an example of what can happen at any time. So I'm going to be on the road a long distance, and God forbid anything happen. I don't focus on that, never have, but in this case I have to make mention of it, so there'll be a record of my tribute to him. Always kind of a thing, you know, that us paratroopers have said to each other in passing: fair winds and soft landings. And that's when we jump, we want fair winds and we want soft landings. And so Ernie, my brother, the world out there, I introduce you to Ernie Hall, Chief Warrant Officer Ernie Hall. Fair winds and soft landings. Till then.